Here are my proven 6 steps to improve your palate. Number 1, create a wine tasting group. There are probably people in your life that want to know more about wine as well. Start with your friends and family. When you go for a wine credential or you're enrolled in some kind of wine school, get together with some other students. It can disseminate the cost and you can expand your horizons in terms of different wines you want to drink. Sometimes you may have some friends that all they drink is Cab, but you want to know more and you want to expand your breadth and depth. That's where a study group, a wine tasting group, can come in really handy. So that's one sure way to improve your palate. Number 2, tasting wine in flights. A lot of us, when we go out or we're with friends or we're tasting wine on our own, we usually do it in a vacuum. Well, I don't literally mean in a vacuum. I mean we're only tasting one wine at a time at an event. But in order to really improve your palate, you need to taste wines side by side in flights of 2 or 3. I would recommend doing is an open tasting, not a blind tasting, meaning you don't know what the wines are. Taste 2 to 3 wines at a time that are very different from each other so you can start to improve your palate and your palate memory. So for example, you can go across different grape varieties. So if it's white wine, Chardonnay versus Sauvignon Blanc versus Riesling. Or it can be the same grape, but in different regions around the world. For example, Pinot Noir in Oregon versus California versus New Zealand. That can be a really great way for you to start learning a bit more about wine, and by doing these taste comparisons, it can really improve your palate. Number 3, removing distractions. When tasting wine, whether you're tasting with a group or you're going to an event, there can be a lot of distractions for your palate. For example, food or people walking around with a lot of cologne or perfume and that kind of thing. So you want to remove all distractions from your palate so that you can focus. That's why I always recommend bringing a few bottles home and just sitting them there with you, and maybe you can have a few friends, but to be there so you can focus and be just there with the wines. What I think is really helpful is to have just water. Sometimes people say you need to have bread or water crackers, which are disgusting, by the way, in order to cleanse your palate. But to be honest, the best way to cleanse your palate is just a drink of water and to wait about 30 seconds before you launch into the next wine. Otherwise, you're contaminating it. Tip number 4, taking consistent notes. When we are tasting wines at a family function or perhaps with our friends, we're not really paying attention except for do we like it or not. But you need to get into the habit of taking good wine tasting notes and just marking down anything that you notice. Noticing the color, noticing how it smells, noticing if it's bitter or not, if it tastes highly acidic or not, just anything that you can observe. That way you can consistently look back at your notes to see how your palate is perceiving a particular wine. Number 5. Aroma kits. Aroma kits was one of my favorite ways to improve my sense of smell. The Lunettes du Vin set was my first set, or you can get a set from Wine Awakenings. Whatever set that you use, because they can be quite expensive, they are invaluable, I think, in order to improve your palate. What they are these little vials of essence. They could be lavender, they could be black currant, they could be, fruit, vegetable, animal, mineral, whatever it is. And they capture that essence and they put it into these little vials. It's kind of like how perfumers learn their craft. So you can open them up and smell that and guess what it is. And you can do those blind and improve your sense of smell. Then you can go to wine and then be able to try to pick up those specific flavors in wine. Number 6, component tasting. Perhaps you saw me do this in the TEDx talk that I had done last year, but What a component tasting is you have, let's say, 4 wine glasses lined up of the same wine. A component tasting, you want to use something that's fairly neutral and is medium everything, so I would suggest a Pinot Grigio. Your first glass is a control glass, meaning nothing's been done to it. But the other glasses, let's say glasses 2, 3, and 4, those have been doctored up. So for example, you may add tartaric acid to one, or citric acid to one, which you can get on Amazon, that's where I got it. You may want to add grape tannin, which is a bitterness, or cinnamon if you can't get it. Grape tannin you can also get on Amazon.com. And then the last one, you may want to add a little vodka. So you're tasting what your palate can perceive as acid, bitterness, and alcohol on your palate. You can do this in a way where over the course of time you add less and less, so you know how sensitive your palate can be to these things. And that is my final tip on improving your palate. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time on Master Wine Online.